Welcome to the Live Out Loud podcast. As promised, I have a special guest on here with me today, our very first guest on the Live Out Loud podcast. This is very exciting times, you guys, and I am so happy to share today's space and conversation with none other than my oldest son, Josh, who is 15, almost 15, I'm sorry. And we're just going to have a great conversation today and hear from him a couple of our family dynamics that you get to hear from someone different than myself, right? And that's super exciting. So stay tuned. Let's get into this conversation today. Welcome, Josh, to this space. I am so glad to have you on here and for our listeners to get to hear a little bit about someone who is a part of this family other than myself. And I'm so glad that you have said yes to this scary and daunting task of being on the podcast with me. But thank you.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting when you asked me that question. I was
When I asked you to come on with me?
Yeah, I was like, caught me off guard when I was like, I think about that for a second.
It can be a little scary to talk into a microphone and have a conversation. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I am so glad to have you on here, and we have discussed a few questions that I would like to ask you, and I'm sure that people would love to hear from your perspective. But let's just start with a very simple question, and one that's so much fun to me because I love books. But what are you currently reading? Well, actually, first, before we jump into that, let's tell people your name and how old you are and something you like to do for fun.
My name is Josh. I am 14 going on 15. And
Almost in April.
Yeah, that's coming. That'll be nice. Yeah. I like to play guitar a lot. It's a big passion of mine, and I enjoy making music.
Yeah, you've been playing guitar for a very long
years.
time.
Yeah.
And you've more recently kind of pursued playing a little bit in more structured ways. You're a part of the band at church, and you're looking at expanding and playing at community events now. Yeah. So that's super exciting.
Yeah. So I'm super excited for that and hoping that can become a bigger thing for me.
For sure. Okay, so let's jump into our first question of what are you currently reading? Tell us that.
I'm reading a couple of books. One is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which is the fourth book, and I'm kind of wrapping up that one, but I'm closer to the end. And that one's been a fun thrill book to read every now and then, and just
okay, all right.
I'm reading a couple of others. I'm reading The Mountain War Party by Louis L'Amour.
Oh, Louis L'Amour books. You love those. Actually,
Yeah.
Dad got you into those a couple of years ago. That was, I think, one of the
Yeah,
first gifts.
so the first gifts he gave me was a Louis L'Amour, a Hondo Lane book.
Yeah.
And that one was really cool and got me hooked into them, and so I have a small collection going.
So what is it that you specifically like about these books?
I like the adventure of the books.
For sure.
And the lessons they can teach. I like the lessons, and I feel like they've helped my character grow some more and
Okay.
help my view on things like work or I've enjoyed harder work
Okay,
with them
because of
and
these books?
Yeah, because of the books and
Yeah.
just the life trials they've gone through. It's kind of helped me realize wow, man, people really went through these, and
Okay.
so that's
awesome.
been cool to hear.
Okay. And then what other books are you reading?
And then I'm reading Love Does by Bob Goff.
Oh, so good.
And that's
Yeah.
been a really good one recently. Just the stories he has and the life lessons he can teach also is just amazing.
Every time you share a story with me, I'm just amazed at the ways he put himself out there in the world, and he just goes for it. And I think that's so inspiring and exciting to want to adopt.
Yes, it was really cool.
Yeah. So, and you're almost done with that book, I think.
Halfway through.
Yeah. Okay. So I might have to read it after you because it looks really
Recommend it.
interesting.
Yes, I definitely recommend it.
Oh, awesome. Okay, and since I have you here, I would like to get into a little bit deeper conversations. We have kind of done a little bit of small talk, but I want to ask you, what are some of the bigger changes that have happened in your life over the past couple of years? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it definitely changed when I had heard you were dating Dad, Caleb.
Yeah.
And that was a really big change because I hadn't gotten used to that. It had been I
think we'd been, just us for 5 years at that point. Yeah, so that's a long time to just be with Mom.
Yeah, and so I was used to being I guess kind of the older man in the house.
Right.
And just kind of used to having you a lot. And then when Caleb guys came along, it definitely changed a lot whenever we got part of his family.
Right.
It just felt it's been different having like another like a man in the house, and
For sure.
having I guess like a dad again, and it's been felt very different, and that's been a very big change.
Yeah, I would have to agree. That is probably one of the biggest changes that has happened in the last couple of years for you, for me, for us, collectively. And yeah, one that we are learning to walk together, one that we have just prayed a lot over, right, in all of this. But it has also been very beautiful, I think,
Yes.
and really, really neat things to see God working out and working through. So, okay, so that's like the major change. And anything else you want to share?
Not much else is. I mean, I feel like been really big in my life. I mean, I know.
I mean, we moved.
Yes, we did move.
We
That
moved
was really
twice in
big.
the
We
last 2
moved.
years.
Yes.
Yes.
Up to California from Guatemala, and then from California to Idaho.
Yeah.
And another big change has been losing friends along. Not losing friends, but having them
Yes.
leave along the way.
I would agree.
And yeah, so
So
that's been
that's
very
really
big.
hard. Yeah, the losing friends, and which is actually one of my questions that I want to talk a little bit later with you, but we'll get to that. But yeah, that has been really hard, and we have found some incredible people in all the places we've lived, haven't we?
Yes.
God has been so good in that, and yeah,
Yeah, and it's just been it's been really nice to have those great friends, but then to also have to like move away from them has also made it hard. But
Yeah.
it makes you realize that like the amount of the people you have backing you up in different times of life, or you know, you can come back to those people, and it's been amazing to know that you have those people.
Yeah, that is a really neat feeling, and that we have really good people kind of in a lot of places. I mean, in the South, in Louisiana, we have amazing friends in Missouri, in Guatemala, in California, Idaho, and just
Arizona.
places.
Yes.
Yeah, Arizona. So just different places we've been, and that's amazing. But I would say the beauty of all of those changes is that we're still together, and everywhere we go, we set up home together. And because home is wherever you guys are, and where we are together, right? So that's a really neat part. And speaking of home, let me ask you this: what is a common quote that you hear me say that has impacted our family life, and one that maybe we kind of live by?
For me, that would be we use what we have, using it wisely and responsibly.
Okay.
That has been like I feel like a big part. When I first heard it, like a good couple years ago, from what you said, I feel like it has impacted the way I treat my stuff and how I view it. Whether it's a nice thing or it's not a nice thing, it still needs to be treated properly. Because whatever you treat it like, it's gonna indicate how you could treat bigger things you ever get in the future.
Exactly. And they're actually gifts from God. Like
Yes.
those, it doesn't matter if it's big or small, it's a gift from God.
Yeah.
And actually, I got that. That's not my line. I actually got it from a Sally Clarkson book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We have a lot of Sally Clarkson books and Clay Clarkson books in our home, which we love to read. But this one comes from their 24 Family Ways, and they talk about using your things wisely and responsibly. And I love that that one has resonated with you. So that's really cool to hear. I think a quote that's really funny that one of your brothers pointed out recently was, I was making a new hat for the website, and it said "Get outside." And then Ethan saw me making it, and he goes, "Mom, that's your new tagline because you say that all the time." And I just thought it was funny that he says that I say that all the time. Do I say that all the time?
Kinda, yeah. Yes.
Do I?
Like once a
well,
day at least.
But we've had some beautiful days, and they are worth taking advantage of. And in between school breaks, we should be outside because it is, yeah, it's amazing. Speaking of outside, you love to be out in the forest. Yeah, tell me what you were building out there this summer.
I was building forts out there in a teepee, and also working on a treehouse.
Yeah, the teepee is quite awesome, and it was really neat to go and spend the evenings out there. You haven't camped in it though yet.
Not yet, no. Ethan really wants to, and so but we'll see if we get around to it.
Okay, maybe this spring or summer.
Yeah, possibly spring or summer. We were building mats out of cattails, and that was really fun to get that experience.
Yeah, that was cool.
Weaving things.
Yeah, weaving things out of cattails from the pond. That was pretty cool. And speaking of being going camping with your brother, let me ask you this: what are some of the harder or difficult responsibilities in being an older brother for you? Share a little bit of that with us.
That would be being a brother who's there for his siblings.
Okay.
That has been more difficult for me to kind of step into that. I'm the oldest. They look up to me, and I need to be there for them, whether they had something happen to them that they need support from, or something that they love just got taken from them, or supporting them and taking care of them through no matter what trial of life they're in, and just letting even when we get older, kind of like you and your siblings do now, how they all you all talk to each other and are in communication, and that's how I feel like I want to be when I'm older. Is I want to be that person where they look up to and like, hey, I just this happened. I really need someone to talk to, or
Right.
can you maybe help me with some advice or something? Just to all be there for each other.
Yeah, I don't know that I would say my siblings look up to me, but I think it is pretty rad that they the communication that we have. And I think just a couple of days ago, one of my brothers was calling me and asking for something for help, and you had pointed that out, right? Like, oh, that's awesome that all of you guys do that. And yeah, I think that's pretty neat. And so is that like that's a hard thing for you, or is it just something you carry with a lot of weight and responsibility?
Well, it's one thing, both. I carry a lot of weight and responsibility of it, but I also just struggle to do it, and I can see the times I don't do it, and that can be very difficult. I'm like, oh, why'd you do that, man? Like, they needed you most, and you failed to be there.
Oh, wow.
And it's kind of like saying, like, oh, man, I had a chance to bring Jesus and life into these people, and I just didn't do it, and there was a chance failed.
Wow. But it's awesome that you can see that in your actions and that you can then not dwell on the wrong that we did, but we can dwell on that there's grace and that we can do better and try better. And God gives grace for that, right?
Yeah.
So that is pretty awesome. Anything else you want to share in that? That is a hard, difficult responsibility for you right now as an older brother.
No, there's not much more I can think about.
Okay. Awesome. So then let's move on to our last question, which is kind of a big one. We had been talking about earlier about friends and kind of losing friends along the way of moving. But my question to you is, what is a hard thing about this season, which you and I had asked you this question, and it was finding friends. And let's talk specifically about that, about finding friends in this season of life, because you are 14 going on 15. And because we have moved several times, it can be hard to have those longer lasting relationships because we have said goodbye, right? And with our more recent move, I don't feel like we have found a group of guy friends that you can connect with, that speak life to you and build you up. Would you say? Have you found that?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
I've been looking and it's been difficult.
Yeah. And so in looking, tell me, what are some things that you specifically look in friendships?
Someone who kind of like I connect with well and I can talk to easily. Someone who will listen and will talk.
Okay.
Not just listen.
So give and take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone who's also not afraid to get their hands dirty. And,
Okay, I love it. Yeah.
It's like a hard worker.
Right.
And
those are good values.
Yes.
Like hardworking.
Also someone who will also help me point towards Christ, and someone we can help each other or strengthen each other, and or as we grow in our faith and get older.
Yeah, and we have talked about finding friendships since you were very young. Do you remember all the conversations when you were little?
Yes.
Of how to find a good friend and the importance of this, and why? Because in Proverbs it talks about friends and who you walk with and walk with the wise, right? And so it is a very important part, and our friendships do define a lot about us, right?
Yes.
And so they can speak life and then not speak life. So it is very important. And so I love that you said that what you look for in a friend also is that they point you back to Christ. And I do feel like you have a few of those friendships in your life right now, which is pretty awesome. I think just where we're at right now, just trying to find those young men who can come alongside you, I think is been a prayer point for us lately, I know, right?
Yes, it's been nice to have those friends I can talk to and say like, hey, how are you? My day's been like this, and just having a conversation between us, and having a friend who can listen, and again, as I said, like give and take.
Yeah, and a lot of them are long distance right now, and so that is the hard part of finding friends and finding good, and that's finding good friends. So definitely praying on that together. But I have to say, I don't think that you are alone in this, because so often in this stage of life, for some reason, it can feel harder to connect with friends. And I don't know why, but a lot of it might have to do with raging emotions and just our brains, they're developing in an amazing way, and we are trying to, right? I mean, our bodies are growing, and so a lot of it might have to do with that. But I don't think that you are alone in that, right? And I think we've all walked through that. And so, just encouragement to keep going. Don't settle. God's got this, right? I always say God can bring good friends again, right?
Yes, and to not stop praying too. Just like to believe that He will goes a long way.
Yeah, to believe He will, because He already has. And so we will see this to fruition. I know. Let's wrap our time up together. And is there anything else that you would like to say before we say goodbye?
No, not really, but just thank you so much for having me. And it's been awesome to join you.
Awesome. And I love that you are my first guest on the podcast. I think that is pretty special. And I know your brother will be next sometime soon. So we will be hearing from him sometime, maybe in the summer. Okay, mamas, I hope that you have had an encouraging time together. This conversation with my son, Josh, who is almost 15, was just a gift to me to be able to hear his heart and have it recorded for myself, and then for you guys as well, to get a little bit of an inside look from one of my kids for family life here. So next week on the podcast, we will be talking about simple things to cultivate for maximum growth. It is a very simple application kind of conversation, but I think that it will have a big impact on our family lives if we take and apply these simple truths of next week's podcast. So that is it for today. Until next time.